I kept silent while my neighbor parked in my spot for years. Today, his car was towed away by a tow truck because I registered the property correctly. For years, I watched that smug bastard pull into my parking spot like he owned it. Every damn day. And every day, I said nothing. Not because I was scared or timid. No, I kept quiet because I knew something that would eventually flip the whole damn situation on its head. But before I get to the day the tow truck hauled away his precious BMW like yesterday's trash, let me take you back to how it all started and how I ended up biding my time like a silent predator. I moved into my condo unit in a quiet little development on the edge of town 5 years ago. Nothing fancy. Just one of those small complexes with 30 or 40 units, a pool nobody uses, and a homeowners association that could write a horror novel with their bylaws. The place came with one assigned parking space per unit. Mine was number 37. Simple, right? Yeah. Until it wasn't. You see, the neighbor in question, we'll call him Trevor, because of course his name is Trevor, had a 2-car household and a 1-car garage. Naturally, he used his garage for his spotless white BMW M4. His wife? She took the designated space in front of their unit. But when their teenage son turned 16 and got his own beat-up Civic, that's when the problems started. Suddenly, my spot, number 37, became his kid's personal driveway. At first, it was small. A couple of hours here, a late night when I came home from work. But then it became daily. Constant. Like clockwork, that Civic was parked in my spot every single morning when I left for work, and every single night when I came home. Every time, I'd sigh, park somewhere else, and remind myself, just wait. Because I had a plan. Now, I'll be honest, I almost said something. A couple of times, actually. But every time I worked up the nerve, I remembered the HOA. I checked the complex documents, the original ones from the city, not just the fluffy pamphlets the board hands out. And that's when I found the crack in Trevor's little empire. See, the HOA assigned the spaces. But they never recorded them with the city. The plots weren't legally tied to each unit, they were just suggestions. Meaning? Technically, no one legally owned those numbered spaces. Not unless they filed the right paperwork. So I did. Quietly. Thoroughly. And most importantly, legally. Over the next 6 months, I documented everything. Every time Trevor's son parked in my spot, I snapped a photo. I kept logs, dates, and times. I even installed a discrete camera on my window ledge pointed right at spot number 37. Meanwhile, I filed a motion with the local municipal property office to officially register spot number 37 as private property attached to my unit. It took weeks. Tons of back and forth paperwork. The HOA didn't like it, but here's the kicker, they had no legal basis to stop me. Because they never filed anything either. When the registration finally came through, man, I felt like I just won the lottery. Spot number 37 wasn't my assigned space anymore. It was mine. And Trevor? Still clueless. Still cocky. Still parking there like he paid the mortgage on that rectangle of asphalt. So I waited. Just a little longer. Because revenge? Best served cold. And believe me, I had a goddamn freezer full of it. Let me tell you something about revenge. It's not about shouting, slamming doors, or public scenes. The best kind? It's quiet. Surgical. Precise. By the time I got the property registration back signed, stamped, and legally binding, I already had the tow company on speed dial. But I didn't make the call. Not yet. Why? Because this wasn't just about getting a car towed. This was about watching a man choke on his own entitlement. Trevor wasn't just a neighbor. He was that neighbor. You know the type, alpha energy in a gated community, a guy who thinks HOA meetings are UFC fights and drives like the cul-de-sac is his personal racetrack. The kind of guy who says, I pay good money to live here, as if that entitles him to breathe more air than the rest of us. And if Trevor was a nuisance, his kid was a miniature clone. Same haircut. Same smug smirk. Same I'm untouchable attitude. So when Junior's Civic kept showing up in my now legally registered parking spot, I stopped sighing. I started smiling. Because now, every time he parked there, I was stacking ammo. I gave them a full week after the registration came through. 7 days. That's more grace than they ever gave me. On day 1, I slid a friendly note under their door. Hi. Just a heads up, parking spot number 37 is now legally part of my property, as registered with the city. Please ensure it's kept clear. Thanks. I even printed it on nice paper. No caps lock. No threats. Just a gentle nudge. The next morning, Civic's still there. Notes gone. Day 2, same thing. So I walked over that evening and knocked on their door. Trevor answered, wearing that tired smirk like it was painted on his face. Me, hey. I think maybe you didn't see the note I left. About the parking spot. Trevor, grinning, oh, we saw it. Real cute. You and your little printouts. I kept my cool. It's actually legal now. Registered through the city. He scoffed. You think I give a sh*t about what you registered? That spot's always been ours. My son parks there. And then, the line that sealed his fate. You don't like it? Call a tow truck. See what happens. Oh, buddy. You shouldn't have said that. Day 3, I called the tow company. Gave them the filed registration documents, photo logs, timestamped videos. The dispatcher sounded almost giddy. Tow guy, you've got a rock-solid case, man. People try to do this kind of thing all the time without paperwork. But you? You came prepared. I scheduled the pickup for Saturday morning, 8 a.m. sharp. That way, the whole neighborhood would see. Trevor's kid always slept in on weekends. But his Civic? That thing was in the spot like clockwork. Saturday morning. The sun's barely up. I'm sitting in my window, coffee in hand, phone in the other, watching the tow truck rumble into the complex like a tank rolling into enemy territory. Spot number 37? Occupied. Perfect. The tow guy doesn't even hesitate. Books the Civic in under 3 minutes. Not a scratch. All smooth. Pro-level stuff. Then, the screech. Trevor Jr. is at his door in boxers and no shoes, face twisted in confusion and panic as he watches his car get lifted like a sad paperweight. Trevor runs out after him, yelling. Too late. Civic's already rolling out of the complex, taillights blinking like a farewell wave. The best part? They couldn't even call it back. Because the tow wasn't illegal. It was authorized. By the legal property owner. Me. I stood on my porch, sipping coffee like I was watching a 4th of July parade. Trevor stormed up to me, red-faced, veins popping. He demanded to know what the hell I thought I was doing. You told me to call a tow truck, I said with a smile. So I did. His jaw moved like he wanted to say something, maybe a threat, maybe an insult, but nothing came out. He just stood there, vibrating with rage. I let the silence sit between us. Then I turned around and went back inside. And that was just the beginning. Because Trevor was about to find out what happens when you treat people like stepping stones. Trevor didn't knock on my door again that day. He didn't have to. Because the silence that followed? That was the loudest thing I'd ever heard in that neighborhood. No more engine revving. No more smug waves from his kid. It was like the towed Civic had taken their whole attitude with it. But me? I was glowing. Radiating inner peace like I just meditated on a mountaintop for a week straight. Still, I knew Trevor wouldn't let this go. He wasn't the take the L type. He was the call his lawyer friend type. The threaten a lawsuit he can't afford type. And, sure enough, Monday morning, a letter showed up on my doorstep. It was printed on some janky home template, pretending to be from a law office, except the lawyer was a guy named Dave with a Yahoo email address. It basically said, "You have committed unlawful seizure of property. You are hereby requested to pay for damages and emotional distress related to the towing incident." Emotional distress? Trevor's kid got his 2009 Civic towed, not excommunicated from the Vatican. I laughed, took a photo of the letter, and forwarded it to the actual lawyer who'd helped me file the parking registration. His reply was simple, "You're in the clear. Let them sue." I dare them. But I wasn't done. Because remember, Trevor wasn't just parking in my spot. He was violating every possible HOA rule like it was his personal mission. Trash bins out on the wrong day? Yeah. Pressure washing his driveway with runoff flooding the street? Check. Running a side hustle car detailing business from his garage? You bet your ass. And all that would have been fine if he hadn't picked a fight with the wrong neighbor. See, when I moved in, I made friends with this sweet old lady across the way, Margaret. Everyone ignored her because she was quiet and kept to herself, but she'd lived in the complex since it was built. And Margaret? She was the HOA's secret weapon. She knew every rule, every bylaw, every clause hidden in that 98-page PDF nobody ever read. And she loved a good story. When I told her what happened with Trevor, she lit up like Christmas came early. 2 days later, Margaret showed up to the next HOA meeting with a binder. Tabs. Highlights. Printouts. She was on a mission. And Trevor? He was dumb enough to show up thinking he'd yell his way out of trouble. Let's just say, that didn't go well. Margaret eviscerated him. She presented photo evidence of his business violations, dated logs of garbage can infractions, noise complaints from 3 different neighbors, and the cherry on top? A petition signed by 9 units, mine included, to formally censure Trevor for repeated rule violations. Trevor tried to argue. Said it was all retaliation for the towing incident. Margaret didn't even blink. She dropped one final bomb. If that spot hadn't been legally registered as property, your son's car would still be here. This isn't retaliation. This is consequence. The board voted 6-1 in favor of the censure. Guess who the one vote was? Trevor's wife. Who didn't even live in the unit technically, her name wasn't on the deed. That night, I heard shouting from across the way. Doors slamming. Trevor's voice echoing off the buildings. And then, the unmistakable sound of a BMW engine revving like it was trying to outrun Shane. Trevor took off. Came back 2 hours later. Alone. That was the last time I saw his kid Civic in the complex. Turns out, they'd moved it to a public lot down the street. Because the tow bill? $380. And no, they didn't pay me back. But that was fine. Because I wasn't finished. After the HOA meeting, Trevor wasn't just angry, he was humiliated. People started avoiding him. This guy who used to strut around shirtless on Saturday mornings, watering his lawn like it was a cologne ad, suddenly couldn't make eye contact with anyone. He stopped showing up to HOA meetings entirely, and Margaret? She practically got promoted to neighborhood queen for how she twerked him in front of everyone. But then came the real kicker. 3 weeks after the tow incident, I got a knock at the door. It wasn't Trevor. Wasn't his wife. Wasn't even the HOA. It was a real estate agent. Hi, sorry to bother you. I'm just going door to door letting neighbors know the Johnsons are putting their unit on the market. I blinked. The Johnsons? She nodded. Trevor and Angela. Moving out. Pretty suddenly, from what I understand. My heart did backflips. Trevor was fleeing. Here's the thing about people like Trevor, they live on appearances. And once the illusion cracks, once they're no longer the guy with the nice car and becomes that guy who got his kid's Civic towed because he didn't know the rules, they fold. Fast. He'd been reported to the HOA. His neighbors hated him. His side hustle was shut down. And every time he pulled into the driveway, that empty parking spot, my spot, sat there like a neon sign flashing you lost. I could have thrown a party. Hell, I almost did. But I wasn't about to dance on his lawn, because the universe wasn't done yet. 2 days after the realtor visit, I got a DM on the community app. Wait for it. Trevor's wife. Angela. It started like this. Hey. I know things got a little messy. Just wondering if you'd be open to a conversation? Now, I'm not heartless. I don't revel in other people's suffering. Okay, maybe a little. But curiosity got the best of me. So I said yes. We met at the pool patio, neutral ground. She showed up looking like she hadn't slept in days. The second she sat down, she let out a sigh like she'd been holding it for years. I'm sorry for how Trevor treated you, she said. I didn't say anything. Just waited. She went on. I didn't know he was using your spot. He told me it was a guest space. Lies on lies. but I let her talk. Then she dropped the bomb. "We're separating." I raised my eyebrows. She nodded. This whole thing, the HOA, the neighbors, the car, it wasn't just about parking. It was about control. He does this with everything. I didn't expect to feel sorry for her. But in that moment, I kind of did. She wasn't the villain. She was just collateral damage. She told me she was staying with her sister. Trevor was selling the unit solo. She wanted a clean break. And the best part? She handed me a check for $380, the tow cost. "He'll never pay you back." But I wanted to. And that was it. Trevor lost his kid's parking spot. Lost the neighborhood's respect. Lost his side gig. Lost his marriage. All because he couldn't not be a jackass about a parking spot. As I watched the for sale sign go up on their unit, I sat on my balcony, sipping a beer, watching a new Civic park in their driveway. This one wasn't his. And my spot? Still gloriously, blissfully empty. Trevor's unit sat empty for almost 3 months. No movement, no showings, nothing. The grass grew wild. Flyers stacked up in the mailbox. The once pristine facade of his kingdom now looked abandoned, like a postcard from a failed life. And then, a moving truck. Trevor was back. Alone. I watched from my window as he trudged in and out of the house, box after box. No help. No wife. No kid. Just a man and the shattered remnants of a life he tried to fake his way through. It was like watching a documentary on fallen dictators. The for sale sign disappeared. Then, just like that, Trevor was living there again. I couldn't believe it. Turns out, Trevor's finances were worse than anyone knew. Word got around that he tried to refinance the condo to pay off his debts and buy out Angela's share during the divorce, but his credit was trash. So he couldn't sell. Couldn't refinance. Couldn't leave. He was stuck in that unit like a man doing time in his own personal prison. And his parking situation? Oh, let me tell you. Since registering my spot as private property, I've added a small post sign. Discreet. Classy. It read, "Private parking, unit number 12 only. Towing in force." Not a threat. Just a statement of fact. And that sign? It haunted Trevor. Every time he came home, he had to walk past it. Every time a guest came over, he had to tell them they couldn't park there. Hell, even the delivery guys started avoiding it. But that's not the twist. No, the twist came 6 months later when the unit next to Trevor's finally sold. I didn't recognize the name on the listing. Didn't recognize the moving truck. But I did recognize the man who stepped out of it. My cousin. Total coincidence. We hadn't spoken in years, but there he was, freshly divorced, moving back to town, and by sheer stroke of fate, buying the unit right next to Trevor's. When I say I laughed, I mean I howled. Because my cousin? He's me, but worse. Petty to the bone. The kind of guy who once spent 3 months getting a neighbor's dog declared a noise hazard because it barked during poker night. And he had no idea about Trevor. Yet. Of course, I brought him up to speed. Told him the whole story, from the first time Trevor's kid parked in my spot, to the HOA censure, to the public divorce. My cousin listened, nodding slowly, sipping a cold one. And then he grinned. "Oh," he said. "We're gonna have so much fun." Within a week of moving in, my cousin had filed 2 formal HOA complaints. 1, Trevor had a gutter overflowing with pine needles. 2, Trevor left a recycling bin out past pickup. Childish? Absolutely. Petty? Damn right. But legal? Every word of it. Trevor had walked into a trap built entirely by his own arrogance, and now he was surrounded. Trapped between the guy who got his car towed and a new neighbor who made HOA violations into a hobby. The last time I saw Trevor was at the annual HOA cookout. He showed up late. Alone. Worn down. Looked like he'd aged 10 years in one. He made a plate of food, sat in the corner, and didn't say a word. At one point, I walked by beer in hand, sunglasses on, not a care in the world, and gave him a nod. He looked up at me, bitter, exhausted, and just nodded back. No more threats. No more bluster. Just defeat. So what's the moral? Honestly? Sometimes silence is the best weapon. Let people dig their own graves. Let arrogance blind them. Let karma drive the damn tow truck. Because in the end, Trevor didn't just lose a parking spot. He lost his pride, his marriage, his reputation. And he got to live every single day in the shadow of the guy who once quietly watched him park where he didn't belong. And me? I park in spot number 37 every single day with a smile. Still mine. Forever mine. And damn, does it feel good.